Our first contestant is an academic prefect and peer supporter. In 2012, she was the top Year 12 Academic and Joint Cultural Achiever of the Year for her school. She has played the piano for 10 years and she performed at the National Sheila Wynne Shakespeare Festival in 2012. From Marlborough Girls' College in Blenheim, please welcome Nerys Udy with The Forgotten Railwaymen.
Yalla! 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 The Kiwi soldier yells in broken Arabic. Go away! Go on, get out of it! But the crowd doesn't listen and continues to descend upon the waiting train. The soldier is left with no choice. He raises his rifle and bang! A shot fires into the air, scattering the crowd of Egyptians into the desert. Quickly, more soldiers move in, shutting off the train's valves, from which water is pouring onto the ground. Fresh, clean water that the crowd is desperate for, even just a drop. The Kiwis look at them with sympathy, indeed with empathy. But this is war. And as much as the soldiers wish they could spare it, this water is destined for the British 8th Army. An army not just of Britons, but of South Africans, Indians, Australians, and New Zealanders. Far from home, far from loved ones, valiantly fighting for freedom in the North African desert. Of the thousands of New Zealanders who left home, said goodbye to loved ones during the Second World War, many of them would end up there as soldiers in North Africa. Others became airmen, joining the glamour boys of the RAF in the fight for Britain. And some found themselves in the Navy, bringing about historic naval victories. When we remember the New Zealanders who went to war for our country, it is these people that we think of. The soldiers, the airmen, the sailors. But what about the others? The non-combatants, the ones who also left home, said goodbye to loved ones, the ones we often overlook in the rush to remember our other Kiwi heroes, the ones like the doctors and medics, the chaplains, the ones like the men of the New Zealand Railway Battalion. This group of volunteers would almost single-handedly build the railroad that would become essential for the Allies in the desert. The North African campaign was pivotal to World War II, and the ultimate victory there is largely put down to the fighting qualities of the British 8th Army. But what people often fail to consider is that in order to fight, an army needs transport and supplies. Remember that train of fresh water? That wasn't just a train. That was an engine driver, a guard, a fireman, men behind the scenes who, because of the way history has been remembered, have stayed behind the scenes, and wrongly so. They have become the forgotten railwaymen. Forgotten, and yet these Kiwi railwaymen spent more time in Egypt's Western Desert than any other unit in the 8th Army. It was their efforts that meant the fighting soldiers had a supply line and a lifeline to retreat back on when that desert fox Rommel showed his teeth. But it was the strategic value of this railroad that meant the Kiwi railwaymen were in immense danger. The Germans were determined to cut off the Allied supply lines, and there was no better target than the New Zealanders and their trains. Large, noisy, and hot, the locomotives provided German pilots with the perfect opportunity for surprise attacks, and train crews wouldn't know what was happening until bullets and cannon shells were already striking home. And of course, on a moving train, there were no slit trenches for the railwaymen to dive into, nowhere to hide, no way to escape. In July 1941, Corporal Bert Padley of Kaikohe would find this out all too personally. He was the engine driver on a transport train, taking weary troops for some well-deserved leave, when suddenly 7 German aircraft came swooping down out of the sun. They opened fire, targeting the engine, and Padley was hit. Not once, not twice, but 5 times. And there was more danger yet. A steep downhill grade lay ahead, and if the brakes weren't applied, the train would crash, killing hundreds, on a journey that was supposed to take them to safety. But incredibly, Padley hadn't succumbed to his wounds. Fighting extreme pain, he managed to stay conscious long enough to apply the brakes and avert the disaster. He survived and was awarded the military medal because, under fire and at risk of severe burns from rupturing pipes, his actions were truly gallant. A hero by anyone's standards. Someone who exemplified the bravery and determination of all men of the Railway Battalion. I am proud to say my own great-grandfather was one of these men. The letters he sent his fiancée during the war still survive today. And not only are these letters a testament to the love that would see them marry, but they are an intriguing insight into what it was like to be a railwayman at war, and the way Grandad coped by looking to a brighter future with unfailing optimism. Sadly, there is little other material to give us such insights, contemporary or historical. In one of the few volumes that does exist, The Desert Railway by Brendan Judd, a group of veteran railwaymen expressed themselves in this line of poetry. I'd like to think that I have paid with something fine my debt to God for my life divine. Indeed, all New Zealanders who have ever gone to war have paid with something fine. Many paid with their lives, or at least had their lives altered forever, so that we can be here today in celebration of them, in celebration of the freedom their toil has brought us. Freedom to seek to repay our debt to them for our own life divine. They sacrificed so much. The very least we can do is remember. Let the forgotten railwaymen be forgotten no more.